Grant Lawson sat alone in his private home office, the room lit only by the pale glow of his phone screen. Another notification flashed. Final reminder, immediate payment required. Amount due $127,000. 14 days past due. Grant exhaled slowly, dragging a hand down his face. That was the fourth alert in less than an hour. He did not bother opening it. He already knew the numbers by heart. His debt had crossed $500,000. Payday loans, high-interest lenders, sports bets that were supposed to fix everything and only made it worse. And that did not even include the $80,000 he had lost the night before, chasing one last miracle. His wife knew none of it. Brooke Lawson was asleep upstairs, or so he assumed. Brooke, the woman who owned a fast-growing network of luxury memory care residences across Southern California. Brooke, the one with real money, real assets, real stability. To the outside world, Grant Lawson was the supportive husband of a successful businesswoman. Calm, polished, reliable. In reality, he lived a double life. One bank card no one knew about. One phone he kept hidden in the glove compartment of his car. A steady stream of excuses about late meetings and out-of-town conferences. Lies stacked so carefully they almost felt like truth. Almost. His phone buzzed again. This time it was not a lender. It was a message from Jenna. "When can I see you again? I miss you." Grant closed his eyes for a brief moment, then typed a short reply. "Soon, just give me a little time." He set the phone down and leaned back in his chair. His heart was pounding not from guilt but from pressure. The collectors had started calling his office line. Someone was going to talk. It was only a matter of time before Brooke noticed something was wrong. And if Brooke ever asked questions, everything would collapse. Divorce was not an option. He knew that better than anyone. The prenup her lawyers had insisted on was airtight. No assets, no properties, no safety net. Nothing. Grant stood and crossed the room to the wall safe. He rested his hand on the cold metal door, thinking about the document he had seen inside just days earlier. That was when the fear began to change into something else. Something colder. Something that felt like a solution. Brooke Lawson did not inherit her life, she built it. Long before the luxury homes, before the awards and magazine features, she was working 16-hour days, negotiating leases, recruiting specialists, and fighting zoning boards that never took her seriously. She learned early that respect was not given, it was earned through consistency and results. By the time she met Grant, her company was already profitable, not flashy but solid. Families trusted her with their parents. Investors trusted her judgment. Employees stayed because she paid fairly and led with discipline. Grant entered her life during a quiet season. She was tired, lonely in a way success does not fix. He was charming then, attentive, full of stories about future plans that sounded thoughtful and ambitious. He spoke about technology ventures that had failed, about lessons learned, about starting over wiser this time. Brooke admired resilience. She believed failure could be a teacher. When they married, her lawyers insisted on a prenuptial agreement. Brooke hesitated at first, afraid it would signal distrust. Grant reassured her, saying he loved her, not her money. The document was signed anyway. Every asset Brooke owned before the marriage remained hers. Every property, every account, every share. If they ever divorced, Grant would walk away with what he brought into the marriage, which was very little. Over the years, Brooke grew busier. Grant grew quieter. He attended events, smiled for photos, and listened as people congratulated his wife. At dinners, he was introduced as supportive, lucky, well-placed. No one noticed how often his smile tightened. No one noticed how rarely he spoke about himself. And Brooke never noticed how carefully he was counting everything she had. Jenna Reed was 22 and still believed that timing could fix anything. She worked at a designer boutique inside a high-end shopping center, folding silk blouses and greeting customers with practiced warmth. She dreamed of opening a small cafe one day, something cozy and creative, a place that felt like her own. Grant Lawson walked into the store on a quiet afternoon, looking for an anniversary gift. He asked questions. He listened. He smiled like a man who felt unseen. Within a week, they were meeting for coffee. Grant spoke about a difficult marriage, about a wife consumed by work, about feeling invisible in his own home. He never mentioned her wealth. He never mentioned the prenuptial agreement. 2 weeks later, he told Jenna he was in love. He promised her a future that sounded simple and beautiful, a downtown apartment, her own cafe, a life where she would never feel small or ignored. "As soon as I handle things with my marriage," he said, holding her close. Jenna believed him. She had no reason not to. Grant never looked distracted with her, never checked his phone, never spoke about money except to say it was complicated. Her mother, Patricia Reed, was not convinced. She had seen men like Grant before, married men with excuses that always needed more time. But Jenna brushed off the warnings. She told herself this was different, that Grant was different. She did not know that everything he promised was built on something he did not own, and something he was becoming desperate to take. The wall safe was not something Grant used often. It was installed years ago at Brooke's insistence, a place for deeds, contracts, and documents she did not want lying around the house. Grant knew the code only because she trusted him enough to share it. That afternoon, Brooke was still at work when Grant opened it. He told himself he was just looking for a tax document, something harmless, something necessary. But his hands moved with purpose, flipping through folders faster than needed. That was when he saw it. The will. Grant stood perfectly still as he read it once. Then again, slowly, carefully. If Brooke Lawson were to pass away, every asset she owned would transfer to one person. Him. No siblings listed, no charities, no business partners, just Grant Lawson named as sole heir. His heart began to race, not with fear but with clarity. All the debt, all the collectors, all the nights staring at his phone, wondering how to escape. It all had an ending now, a single, terrifyingly clean ending. He closed the folder and returned it exactly where it had been. The safe clicked shut with a dull sound that seemed louder than it should have been. That night, Grant barely spoke at dinner. Brooke noticed his distraction but assumed he was tired. She talked about a new facility she wanted to open near the coast, about staffing challenges, about long-term plans. Grant nodded, listened, calculated. In his mind, the numbers rearranged themselves. $500,000 in debt disappeared. Jenna's cafe appeared. A fresh start took shape. The idea did not arrive as a shock. It settled in quietly like something that had been waiting. Grant told himself he was not a bad person, just a trapped one, just someone forced into a corner. And corners, he reasoned, were where people made difficult decisions. By the end of the week, he had chosen a restaurant. Their favorite one by the water. A place where Brooke felt relaxed, happy, safe. Grant told himself it was only dinner. But deep down, he knew it was something else entirely. The restaurant sat along the harbor, wrapped in soft light and quiet elegance. Brooke loved this place. It was where they celebrated promotions, anniversaries, moments that once felt like milestones instead of memories. When Grant suggested dinner there, she smiled the way she used to, surprised and pleased. It felt like a return to something familiar. She dressed carefully that night, choosing a simple silk dress and pulling her hair back the way Grant always said he liked. In the car, she reached for his hand, grateful for the rare, uninterrupted time together. "I miss us," she said gently. Grant smiled and squeezed her fingers. "Me too." Inside, everything felt effortless. Calm music, low voices, white linen tables. Brooke relaxed in a way she had not in months. She talked about work, about plans for the company, about finally taking a vacation once the next project stabilized. Grant listened. He laughed at the right moments. He asked questions. Anyone watching would have seen a devoted husband. Halfway through dinner, Brooke excused herself to the restroom. Grant watched her walk away, then glanced around the room. Servers were busy. Conversations overlapped. No one paid attention to him. When Brooke returned a few minutes later, he was seated exactly as before, his expression neutral, his posture relaxed. They raised their glasses. "To us," Brooke said. "To us," Grant replied. She took a few sips, unaware that anything had changed. For a while, nothing did. They finished their meal. Brooke laughed at a story Grant told about a client meeting. She leaned back in her chair, comfortable, trusting, content. Then she paused mid-sentence. Her smile faded slightly. "I feel a little lightheaded," she said, pressing her fingers to her temple. "Maybe the wine was stronger than I thought." Grant stood immediately, concern already on his face. "Let's get some air," he said. "I'll take you home, or to the ER if you want." Brooke nodded, relieved that he was taking charge. She never questioned the way he guided her out. She never questioned the direction the car would soon take. She trusted him completely. The night air was cool as Grant helped Brooke into the passenger seat. She leaned back, breathing a little faster than normal, her skin pale beneath the streetlights. Grant fastened her seatbelt with careful hands, his movements calm and precise. "I'll get you checked out," he said. "Just stay with me." Brooke nodded. She trusted the steadiness in his voice more than her own senses. As the car pulled onto the road, the city lights blurred past the window. Brooke closed her eyes, focusing on slow breaths, telling herself it was just exhaustion. Too much work, too little rest. Minutes passed. Then she opened her eyes again. "Grant," she said softly, her voice unsteady. "This doesn't look familiar." He kept his eyes on the road. Shortcuts are faster at this hour. The car turned. The pavement gave way to gravel. Streetlights disappeared. Darkness pressed in from both sides as the road narrowed. Brooke's heart began to pound. "This is not the way to the ER," she whispered. Grant did not answer. Her hand slid weakly across the console, reaching for him. Her fingers felt numb, unresponsive. Panic rose, sharp and sudden. "Grant, please," she said. "Something is wrong." The car slowed. Trees closed in around them, their shadows stretching across the hood. Grant brought the vehicle to a stop and turned off the engine. The silence was immediate and absolute. He finally looked at her then. Not with concern. Not with warmth. But with a calm that made her blood run cold. Brooke swallowed hard, her breath shallow. "Grant," she said again, barely audible. That was when she realized the man beside her was no longer pretending. And whatever was happening was no accident. Grant opened his door and stepped out of the car, moving with a calm that felt unreal. Brooke tried to unbuckle her seatbelt, but her hands would not cooperate. Her body felt heavy and distant, as if it no longer fully belonged to her. Grant walked around to her side and opened the door. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice shaking. He did not answer right away. He reached in and gently pulled the seatbelt free, then took her arm and helped her out of the car. Her legs buckled the moment her feet touched the ground. The gravel was cold beneath her knees as she collapsed. "I feel sick," Brooke whispered. "Please take me to the hospital." Grant looked down at her for a long moment. Then he sighed as if tired of holding something in. "I did not take you out here by mistake," he said quietly. Brooke stared at him, trying to understand his words. "I am drowning, Brooke," he continued. "Debt, calls, threats. I tried everything to fix it. Nothing worked." Her heart raced. "Grant, what are you saying?" "I found your will," he said, "and I understood everything." The truth landed slowly and then all at once. "You planned this," Brooke said, her voice breaking. Grant nodded once. No anger, no shame. "You never saw me," he said. "I stood beside you while everyone praised you, your success, your strength, and I was just there, smiling, quiet." She shook her head, tears running down her face. "I loved you." He looked at her with something close to indifference. "I never loved you," he said. "You were convenient, safe, and now you are my way out." Brooke tried to crawl toward him, but her strength was gone. "Please," she whispered. Grant stepped back. "This ends tonight," he said. Then he turned away. The sound of the car door closing felt final. And when the engine started, Brooke knew he was leaving her there. Alone. In the dark. To disappear. The sound of the engine faded into the distance, leaving only the wind and the low hum of insects. Brooke lay on her side, her cheek pressed against the cold ground. Every breath felt shallow and forced. Her thoughts came in fragments, drifting in and out like a weak signal. She tried to call out, but her voice was barely a sound. Time lost meaning. Just as the darkness began to close in completely, a new sound cut through it. An engine. Low, steady, getting closer. Headlights appeared at the bend in the road, sweeping across the trees and then slowing. The vehicle rolled forward a few yards before stopping. A door slammed. Footsteps rushed toward her. "Oh my God, are you alive?" Brooke forced her eyes open. A man was kneeling beside her, his face tight with alarm. He looked familiar, though her mind struggled to place him. "Ethan Carlisle." She had seen him across conference tables, in industry panels, always sharp, always composed. A competitor, not a friend. Poison, she managed to whisper. Ethan did not hesitate. He slipped his jacket off and wrapped it around her shoulders, checking her breathing, her pulse. "We're getting you help right now," he said firmly. He lifted her carefully, as if she weighed nothing, and carried her toward his SUV. Brooke felt herself fading, but his grip was steady, real. As he buckled her into the back seat, he pulled out his phone. "Mom, it is Ethan," he said quickly. "I am bringing in a critical patient. Possible poisoning. We need everything ready." A calm voice answered immediately. "Understood. I will be waiting." The SUV pulled away fast, cutting through the night. For the first time since the car stopped, Brooke allowed herself to believe one thing. She might survive. Brooke woke to the steady rhythm of monitors and the sharp, clean scent of antiseptic. For a moment she did not know where she was. Then memory returned in pieces. The restaurant, the road, Grant's voice in the dark. "You are safe," a woman said gently. Brooke turned her head and saw Dr. Vivian Carlyle standing beside the bed, silver hair pulled back, eyes calm and focused. "You were brought in just in time," she continued. "Your system showed clear signs of a foreign substance. We stabilized you and flushed it out. You will recover." Tears slid down Brooke's temples. "I am alive." "Very much so," Dr. Carlyle replied, "but for now you must remain invisible." Ethan stood near the doorway, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "If Grant knows you survived, he will destroy evidence or disappear," Ethan said. "Right now he thinks he succeeded. That is our advantage." Brooke nodded slowly. She understood. Within hours, a plan began to form. Detective Mariah Bennett from the district attorney's office arrived quietly that evening. No uniform, no paperwork visible. "This is attempted murder," Maria said after listening to Brooke's statement. "And if we do this right, it will be clean and final." They moved carefully. Medical reports were sealed. Blood samples documented. Dr. Carlyle preserved every result. Ethan's investigator traced Grant's finances. The picture was devastating. Over $500,000 in high-interest debt, escalating losses, constant collection calls. Then came the messages. Grant's text to Jenna painted a clear picture. Promises, deadlines. One message stood out. "Everything will be settled soon. We are starting our new life." Mariah exhaled slowly. "That gives us motive." Next came the restaurant footage. The manager cooperated quietly. Camera showed Brooke leaving the table. Grant alone. A brief movement of his hand toward her glass. 10 seconds was all it took. That was enough. Brooke lay back against the pillows as the truth assembled itself around her. Grant had planned everything. And now, for the first time, he had no idea the game had changed. 3 days later, Grant Lawson received the call he had been waiting for. The voice on the line was professional and calm. A representative from a private wealth bank offered condolences for his loss. They explained that his wife's estate required a preliminary consultation. Grant thanked them, his voice heavy and practiced. When the call ended, he sat perfectly still for several seconds. It worked. He showered carefully that morning, choosing his best suit. In the mirror, he practiced a restrained expression. Grief without drama, sadness without suspicion. At the bank, marble floors echoed beneath his shoes. He was escorted to a quiet conference room on the 3rd floor. Conference room 7. He adjusted his tie and knocked. "Come in," a woman's voice said. Grant opened the door and froze. Brooke sat at the long table, pale but upright, her eyes steady and clear, alive. For a brief moment his mind refused to process what he was seeing. "This is not possible," he whispered. Before he could step back, the door closed behind him. Detective Mariah Bennett stood near the window, badge visible in her hand. 2 officers blocked the exit. "Grant Lawson," Mariah said calmly, "you are under arrest for attempted murder." His legs weakened. He reached for the back of a chair but missed it. Brooke stood and placed a folder on the table. "This is the divorce petition," she said quietly. "Filed under attempted homicide, fraud, and infidelity." Grant's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Under the prenuptial agreement," Brooke continued, "you receive nothing. Not a dollar. Not a future." The handcuffs clicked shut. Grant finally understood. He had walked in expecting an inheritance. Instead, he had walked into the truth. The courtroom was quiet when the judge read the sentence. Grant Lawson stood motionless, his hands clasped in front of him, his face drained of all color. The arguments had run out weeks ago. The evidence had spoken for itself. The financial records, the messages, the footage, the medical reports. There was nothing left to explain. The sentence was firm, 18 years. As he was led away, Grant turned once, searching the room. His eyes found Brooke for a brief second. She did not look back. To her, the man who had left her on the side of a dark road no longer existed. Outside, the air felt different, lighter. Brooke stood on the courthouse steps, letting the sun touch her face. The fear that had lived in her chest for months finally loosened its grip. Ethan waited nearby, respectful, silent. "It is over," he said softly. Brooke nodded. "Yes, it is." The divorce was finalized the same week. The prenuptial agreement held exactly as written. Grant walked away with nothing, no assets, no claims, no leverage. Brooke rewrote her will that same day. She returned to her company with a clarity she had never known, stronger boundaries, tighter oversight, a renewed respect for her own instincts. Jenna sent a message through her attorney, an apology, a promise to rebuild her life differently. Brooke accepted it without bitterness. Healing did not come overnight, but it came. Slowly, honestly. If this story reminds you of someone who trusted too deeply or ignored a quiet warning inside themselves, share it. And tell me this. Where are you listening from? Your voice matters here. Thank you for being part of the Art of Revenge.